Okay, so I'm gonna go over the Rashis and Tosfos, and while going over the Rashis and Tosfos, in the middle, whatever Rashi comments on, I'll go through that in the Mishnah, and after all that, I'll go through the Gemara. And if there's something that is not in either of those, meaning the explanation of what's between Na and Zika or something like that, that's not in the, if it's not in the Rashis or Tosfos, then if I remember, I'll go over it. Okay. So we'll start with the first Rashi. Hakonis is pater. So that's obviously he abbreviates the thing, but the whole line is I'm going in the Mishnah right now. Hakonis on the deer. If somebody brings the sheep to the deer, to the dwelling place of the animal, meaning the barn or wherever it lives, v'nal b'fanea, and he locks it b'fanea, it inside. Vinal, he locks b'fanea, it inside kirui properly, v'yatza, and it goes out, the son goes out, v'zika, and it damages, he's pater. The owner of the animal is pater. So Rashi comes to deha natra, because he watched it, deha, that, or because natra, he watched it. So now he's going to say a rhetorical question, and I'll explain what it means. Umay havilei limavid, and umahi, and what havilei would be to him, like would be responsible for him, limavid, to do. Meaning, what could he have done? Meaning, he did the best he can, and there was nothing else that he could have done. The next Rashi is on hanicha b'chama, so I'll go in the Mishnah up until hanicha b'chama. Lo nabel fanei kirui, if he did not lock it properly, v'yatza v'zigan, went out and damaged, chayiv. The owner of the animal is chayiv. Nifritza balayla, if it went out at night, o shipartzua listim, or if robbers shipartzua took it out or broke it out, rather v'yatza v'zika, and the animal went out and damaged, pater. He's pater. Now, when it says pater in this case, it's both the listim and the owner, both the robber and the owners. So first of all, why the robber? First of all, why the owner? The owner, it's pretty obvious, because he was responsible. It wasn't his fault. He locked it properly, because obviously it's not talking about a case where he didn't lock it properly, because if he didn't lock it properly, it would be obviously chayav. So we know it's talking about a case that he locked it properly, and since he locked it properly, he was responsible. And just like the first Rashi said, there was nothing else he could have done. It wasn't his fault. They broke out at night, or the robbers got it out, and it's not his fault. Now I'm going to explain the thing about nifritza balayla when I go into the Tosfos, and so I'll do that later. Okay, and pater, the listim are pater, because they didn't acquire any ownership, so they have no requirement to be chayiv in damages. They didn't do anything. They don't have ownership of anything, and it's not like they made the animal damage. You can't make an animal damage something. So there's nothing that they physically did by themselves, and since they don't have ownership of the animal, they are not responsible for Vizika, so they're pater. Next Rashi. So the next case in the Mishnah, Haitziyuha listim. If the listim took it out, Haitziyuha, they took it out. Listim chayavin. The listim are chayiv. So how do we know that pater in the other case meant both the owner and the listim? Because here it says listim chayavin. It makes a specification. So we make a diuk, we make an inference that before it meant pater. So now this case, haitziyuha. Why is it haitziyuha and not shibartzua? Because there's a difference. When it's haitziyuha, they actually acquire ownership, because they take it out. That's one of the ways you can acquire ownership of an object. Obviously, they have an intent. They have intent to take the robber. Now, if they don't have the intent, then this is a good question, and I'm not going to say it right now. But so obviously, the robbers had intent to rob the animal, and they took it out, so they acquired ownership. So because they dragged the leash or whatever they did it, but since it says Hoitziyuha, we know that they acquired ownership. So now they're responsible for hezek, and since it went out and damaged, they're chayiv. Okay, next case. Hanicha b'chama, if the owner of the animal, hanicha b'chama left it, like placed it b'chama in the sun, or shemasra, he gave it over, lecheresh, to a deaf person, shote, to a retarded person, v'katan, or a minor, v'yatza, and the animal went out v'zika and damaged, chayiv. The owner is chayiv. Why is he chayiv? Because he was poshea. He's negligent. Why is he negligent? When he took it out in the sun, he knows that it's hot. So obviously the animal is going to try to get out of the sun. So since he knows the animal is going to try to get out of the sun, then he's chayiv. Now we have a question right here, because we know, right? Let's say he didn't lock it properly, right? And he nicha v'chama, we know if he didn't lock it properly, it's obviously chayiv. So we know it's v'nal b'fnei karui. He locked it properly. So he nicha v'chama and nal karui. So why is he chayiv if he locked it properly? Rashi is going to explain that. And the cheresh shote v'katan, he's chayiv because he's also negligent. Because for those three, the cheresh is the deaf person is considered not as intelligent because they couldn't learn that much in those days. Since they were deaf, they didn't know how to teach them that much. So the cheresh, shota, and katan are irresponsible. So he can't give it over to them. It's just as irresponsible as not locking it correctly. So since he did not watch it correctly, he's chayiv for Yizika. He was negligent. All right, now we're going to answer the question. I'll remind us what the question is. Right? He took it out in the sun. We know that obviously it's talking about a case that he locked it properly. So if he locked it properly, why is he chayav? So Rashi is going to explain. If he took it out in the sun, mitzara la shimsha. The mitzara, it bothered him, to it, meaning the animal, shimsha, the sun. So the sun bothered it. The sun bothered the animal. Velo sagile, and it was not enough. Velo sagile, it was not enough to him, meaning it was not enough for the owner. B'ne'ela kerui, to lock it up properly. B'ne'ela, to lock it, kerui, properly. Why? Or not why. Rashi's not going to explain why, but I'll explain more why it's not. But the Mukman, the Bigamara, so now he'll explain what B'ne'ela Karoi is. So V'lo Sagile B'ne'ela Karoi, and it's not enough to lock it properly. Now he's going to explain what is B'ne'ela Karoi. The Mukman Bigamara, which we established in the Gemara, the Hainu, that it is, meaning we established that in the Gemara it is, dehainu, it is, deles, a door, sheyechola, that is able to, la'amod, to stand, beruach, in a wind that's mitsuya, that is common. Meaning a lock or a door that is able to withstand a common wind. That is B'ne'ela Karui, a normal wind. So what Rashi is implicitly saying, so he doesn't explicitly say this, but this is his answer. Why is he chayiv if he locked it properly? Because the normal lock is not enough, meaning that he needs to have a stronger lock. If he does not have a stronger lock, or whatever it may be, then it's not enough in this case, because he knows that he knows the sun will cause it pain or discomfort. So he knows that the animal will try to escape. So because of that, the Neila Karoi, the normal lock, which is that withstands a normal wind, is not enough. Rather, he needs a lock that withstands more than the normal wind. So nichnas okay. The next case Rashi explains is nichnas aroa taktav. So I'm gonna go back into the Mishnah and explain up until there. Masar lor, if he gave it over to the roe, nichnas aroa taktav. The roe goes under him, meaning that's the literal translation. So masar, if he gave it over the roe to a shepherd, nichnas, it goes and enters haroe, the shepherd, taktav, under him, meaning the roe, the shepherd, takes his place for him. Now Rashi explains what does it mean he goes in his place. So nichnas haroe taktav. Now I'm in Rashi, leis chayiv in nezikin, to make him chayiv for nezikin, for damages. So not for hana, but for damage. Now, why would that be so? Because for hana, the whole point of hana, and now I'll explain the difference between hana and hezek, and then I'll explain why the roa is not chayiv for the hana. So hana is right. It's nobody's. It's the chiyuv for hana can only happen in a case where it was nobody's fault, right? If it's nobody's fault, it's not the owner's fault, and it's not the field owner's fault. None of their faults, right? But since the owner of the animal is benefiting on the owner of the field, we can't. So the Torah doesn't let him benefit on somebody else's loss. So instead, they make the owner pay what he benefited. So the owner benefits from the food. So now here's the fundamental difference between hana and hezek. Hana is the value of benefit you're getting from somebody else's loss. So let me explain. So let's say the owner, right? The owner usually pays food that is only $10 a day, let's say, okay? But since the animal escaped into the guy's field, he ate $20 worth of food. But the owner, right, when the owner is benefiting right now, he's not benefiting the $20 because let's say the animal wouldn't have escaped into the field. He wouldn't care if the animal ate the $20 or not. He wanted the animal to eat the $10 food. The owner only benefited $10 because he has to pay for one less meal, right? Because of the animal ate the $20 worth of food. Now the owner doesn't have to pay for one day of food. And that one day of food is only worth $10 to him. So I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well. So let me draw it out. Right. Normally, the owner would provide food for the animal for only $10. Right? The owner's food for the animal is only $10. So, right, let's say this was his week of food, right? So this was his week of food, right? So here he would have to pay $10 for food. Here he would have to pay $10 for food. Here he had to pay $10 for food. Okay, but on this day, or let me do the rest of the days. $10 for food, $10 for food. Okay, on this day though, the animal escaped, and he ate $20 of food. Right, but the owner, let's say the animal did not escape. How much would the owner pay here? He would have only paid $10. So the owner is only benefiting $10. He's not benefiting the $20 because he wouldn't have paid the $20 on that day. He would have only paid $10. So since he's only benefiting $10, right? And it was